Hello and welcome to the Team VVV podcast for all your weekly racing game rambles. I'm Martin and joining me as ever is Kevin.
Hello.
Alan.
Hello, viewers.
And Ed.
Hello, everyone.
So if you enjoyed the podcast, don't forget to give us a like and subscribe. It really helps support what we do. This week we are also giving away another PS4 code for Rock and Racing Off-Road.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yes. We love a bit of Rock and Racing Off-Road.
This race is on fire.
Precisely.
Sorry.
So, after months of silence, we finally have some Gran Turismo Sport news. Hooray. It's not quite what you're expecting, though. Let's put it that way. So, apparently, Polyphony has partnered with Tag Heuer, which will be the... I'm trying to keep a straight face, honestly. Which will be the official timekeeper of GT Sport, because that's exactly what players have been wanting all along. I wonder, though, if they've been timekeeping how long it's taken to develop. Is all I can say about that. That's why they really need a timekeeper.
Oh, they'd run out of figures, wouldn't they?
It's just beyond belief.
It's about the detail, isn't it? Tag your official timing. You know,
I can see why they've done it for the eSport connection and all that, but they've gone above and beyond. They have a Tag Heuer museum.
I'm really glad the game's been delayed to include that feature. I think it's a real game changer right there. You know, though that timer would not have been as accurate without Tag Heuer official timing. You know, now it is. Now you know that is the official timing, not just any old timing, not just any old clock. So it's all about breaking
boundaries, really.
No, it's another trailer showing brand new footage of the game, of tracks we've never seen before.
I mean, to the credit, there was probably about 3 or 4 seconds of new footage there.
There probably was, actually, yes. There probably was.
You'll miss it footage.
Yeah, the rally car scene, wasn't there? There was one extra clip, and that was about it. I mean, it's a funny old story, isn't it? We keep saying it, but it seems like we're waiting a long time to get, frivolous elements, there. Photo mode.
You've had months of no news, no new footage, nothing like that, and all of a sudden they announced that. It's a bit of an anticlimax, to say the least.
It is. It is. I think that. I mean, it's really interesting, and we'll talk a bit about this when we get onto the Vision GT. But I think what's interested me with Gran Turismo is the fan response. Now, 6 or 7 years ago, if you saw a Gran Turismo trailer, everybody would be going, "Oh my God, it's amazing! It's the best thing ever! I can't wait! It's going to be amazing!" People have gone out. They've said Gran Turismo in 2013 or whatever it was when they released the last game. They said the next game will be out very quickly in a year or so, whatever. People have gone out and bought PS4s, expecting to see Gran Turismo, and now it's like, it seems like the core system will be the PS4 Pro even now, rather than the PS4 for it. All you see is fans who are like, don't care. They're losing interest. In a way,
and PS4 Pro, actually, loads of previews have just come out, and all they do is highlight how good it looks on PS4 Pro, and that's about it.
That's it. That's all people are saying. I mean, it looks amazing on PS4. It's irrelevant to me. I don't care. I've got a PS4, and so have the large percentage of people out there. The PS4 is the format we want to see it running on. Yes, it's nice that the PS4 Pro will have extra reflection effects and some more resolution and some more frame rate here or there or whatever on a replay mode. But the reality is that we want to see it running on the base PS4, and so I mean, that feeling, that vibe of the excitement of a new Gran Turismo game has been replaced by people just saying, "What am I excited about? I've seen nothing in a year, and it's taken them 4 years to make this game." I mean, it's 6 tracks and a bunch of cars in 4 years. I mean, it's not much to go on, is it, at the moment? So, but no, we will have official Tag Heuer timing, and it will be amazing. We've not had that in a game since. Well, we covered the last game with it in there, and that was F1 on the PlayStation, Formula 1 on the PlayStation, which we actually covered a few weeks ago. And that was the last game to feature official timing, probably. I don't know if another one has, actually. Someone do correct me if I'm wrong, but it's just a funny coincidence seeing that logo on screen. It always added
one of the back of the box features on GT Sport. Official Tag Heuer timekeeping.
Yeah. buy your timepieces here. You know, I think that's one of the things that it's also a branding exercise, isn't it? I mean, everything like the Vision GT, it's just one big fat branding exercise. You know, it doesn't benefit gamers at all, really.
When
it's really
every new
well.
feature that they bring out is just another ego stroking branding thing, that just be like, oh yeah, we'll get this massive brand into our game and blah blah blah. Meanwhile, we're getting no new features, no new clips to see, nothing to sort of entice people and grab their attention. It's just so that they could be, so they could have some presentation about it and to sort of, you know, just go, ooh, look at us, and that's it. And people are just losing interest by now.
Yeah, it's a sure way, you know, it's a sure way to anger your fans, isn't it? I mean, we've seen it time and time again with GT Sport. It just doesn't seem to move on. So I want to see all the, you know, I want to see the damage. I want to see the iRacing sort of system in action. These are the features that I'm excited for. You know, the VR as well, another big feature, but they're not showing that for whatever reason. So, you know, here we are in 2017, March, and we're still not really that excited for the game. We don't know when it's coming still. So it's quite ridiculous at this stage.
I think something for me is the cars have got really nice sort of reflection and shine effects and lighting effects now.
But how pretty can they get, you know?
But the circuits, I mean, that Tokyo circuit still looks bland and uninspiring. The tarmac and the look and the lack of detail on the environments is still terribly disappointing.
I'm sick of seeing shiny cars, though. I want to see juicy game elements. You know, I don't want to see shinier and shinier cars. You know, graphics can only get you so far. So, show me the sport element of the GT game.
Yeah, we just want to see. I just want to see nice, gritty, hardcore racing, and you know, that's what I want to see. I want to see all that in there, and I haven't. You know, it's like there's a part of them that's living in a world 15, 20 years ago almost, you know, and they're just making the game look better, but it sort of harks back to the past. And that's if the online aspect even works properly, you know. No saying that well, judging by the way it was in the early build, it wasn't that stable. So yeah, branding exercise. I mentioned it when I met Kaz on an interview on VVV somewhere a couple of years ago. You know, where is the Vision GT going? I said to him, you know, what's the point in it? Because it, you know, is it just something to sell cars? Is it? And as far as we can understand, it is just a branding exercise. It's just the photo mode is so you can say to a car company, we want your car in the game, and look how good your car's going to look in the game. It's going to look polished, it's going to look clean, it's going to look fast. But here in photo mode, it means people can see the car and they can see different colors, and then maybe they can want to buy that car. So they'll then want to go to the showroom and see that car. And this is what it's all about. And the game itself is a byproduct of Kaz enjoying his world of motorsports. And that's as far as I see it these days. It's almost like the problem with Gran Turismo is a bit like the GT Academy is another thing. When I interviewed Jan Mardenborough a few years ago, GT Academy was in a different place. It was in... you know, there was this about, oh, you know, can a gamer race a racing car? And the motor industry wasn't interested. It didn't care at all. You know, you turn up, it would be gamers, and it would be people scoffing at it in the motor industry. They thought it was a waste of time. Then suddenly, Jan and a few other drivers do really well. And suddenly the motor industry is like, wow, it's true. Games really can help find great talent. But then what happened is that as they grew in the motor industry, suddenly the games industry wasn't interested anymore because they cut them off. You know, nowadays, if you try getting an interview with Jan, oh no, it's motor industry related media now. It's not really anything to do with games. There is no connection between the GT Academy players and the games industry now. None. No one even knows about it. There's no connection at all. And so that's where I found that Gran Turismo has this split down the game side and the branding product side for the motor industry. And at the moment, the branding and product motor industry work is more important to them in terms of funding the brand than generating income from the actual game itself. It's one big marketing machine, Gran Turismo. But, you know, they'll certainly see things change if Forza and Project Cars can get their act together in some way, because then you'll start to see different influences on the market. And we've seen that with Forza Motorsport when they got the Top Gear license and stuff like that. you know, that was a big change for them. Plus the fact that obviously they've got Rolls-Royce and other companies before anyone else in Top Gear, in Forza Motorsport. So, and Forza Horizon as a Turn 10 brand. So yeah, it's it's interesting but disappointing. I'm disappointed with where Gran Turismo is right now, and like you say, the fact that it's taken so many years to get to this point. They're kind of at a point they should have been at 3 years ago, and I think that's compounded by the reaction from the fans.
Absolutely, but then those games don't have a Tag Heuer museum where you can learn the entire history of Tag Heuer.
Oh wow! Exactly.
Everyone else just give up, I think.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I want. I just
game.
want to hang out in that museum right now. It's just gonna. I'm buzzing for that now. Buzzing for that museum.
Watch the trailer. It shows you a bit of it in the trailer. But I think Polyphony sometimes forget that they're making a racing game, not an encyclopedia or a photo gallery.
Yeah. Just waiting for the game to come out and there to be like timing glitches in there where like cars are crossing the line and it's not realizing that they've crossed the line, or people's lap times glitching out and stuff. That'd be hilarious.
Blame Tag Heuer.
Yeah.
Tag Heuer, official timing. Official timekeeper of your PlayStation. It's very bizarre, isn't it? It's just purely branding. So we'll wait and see. I mean, is it going to come out this year? I mean, people are always asking about a release date. Who knows? We'll find out at E3, though. I genuinely feel it does have to come out this year. I do feel that it has to come out this year.
Yeah, the PlayStation 4's been out how long now? 4 years or something? And there's still no Gran Turismo game?
Yeah.
How soon have you allowed that to happen, frankly?
I mean, I think that's why. I think in a trailer right now, I'd like to be seeing 20 or 30 circuits. I'd like to be seeing stacks of different types of motorsport, really building up now, ramping up to release, really being excited of, I want to play that now. That's really blowing my mind. And it's not quite, it's always more polishing. So,
I think this week's we've summed up the kind of different attitudes of racing game developers at the moment, because we've had the Geneva Motor Show, lots of big car reveals. Obviously, Polyphony revealed the new, what's it called, the Fittalpaldi EF7 for the Vision GT. Project Cars 2, on the other hand, revealed the McLaren 720S. I know which car I'd rather drive in a game.
Yeah.
I mean, that is a phenomenal car, by the way. It does like 0 to 60 in 2.8 seconds, apparently.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Whoa.
And I can go on. It does 0 to 124 miles an hour in 7.8 seconds, and it will do the quarter mile in 10.3 seconds. And I promise I don't work for McLaren.
Wow. Vin Diesel would be happy with that. 10-second car.
Yeah. Yes, he would. But that's just such a more exciting car reveal than the Vision GT thing.
Yeah,
it
absolutely.
Looks stunning as well.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
The other car kind of made me think of like a Ferrari almost.
Yeah.
It's almost like a 430, is it? Vibe going on with those headlights, perhaps. I don't know. I'm not a massive fan of the way it looks. I've got to say, the headlights to me look a bit big.
Probably thinks the last one looked better, actually, the 650S.
Yeah.
Slightly, I don't know, it just looked a bit cleaner.
The recess to me just looks a little bit enlarged. It does make the car look a little bit ugly, but that's my opinion. By all means, if you like the car, that's fine.
It depends on the shot. I think I'd need to see it in person to really judge it. Actually, some of the screenshots don't really show you all the way around the car, but it's a nice addition to have, isn't it? I mean, and that if you're going to be in a game like any other game other than Gran Turismo, that your game will probably come out this year. When it's essential to you. Not, hey, here's a deal to have our car in your game. When's it going to be out? Oh, it's going to be out in 6 months. Brilliant. Thank you for that. We really would like to help with the sales this year. And then it comes out 3 years later. Oh, yeah, our car that's 3 or 4 years old is in the game. Yeah. Who cares? Who cares when we've got the new one we're trying to sell now?
Yeah, so much for all those relationships with the motor industry.
Well, exactly. Yeah, that all goes up in smoke.
It's interesting, because years ago, a car reveal like that, you would expect it to be in either Forza or Gran Turismo. It does kind of show that Project Cars 2 is definitely a force to be reckoned with.
Yep.
Yeah, they've got good technology, and I think that if they can bring it all together this year, they will position themselves on the multi-format map. So yeah, it's all going to hot up once the new consoles are out as well as Scorpio, of course. They'll have the graphical fidelity to play with as a third-party studio, and a lot of people don't get this. When they see the graphics of Gran Turismo, and they're just not recognizing that that's first party, and the difference between the amount of money and resource and development support that first party studios get compared to third party. That's why I've always been impressed with what Slightly Mad and Codemasters have managed to get out of their games, because they're two companies with great graphics engines. So do remember that the Codemasters graphics engine was heavily funded and made in cooperation with Sony in the first place. So
interestingly as well, Forza Horizon 3 also had a car reveal from Geneva. So whereas Project Cars 2 got the McLaren 720S, Forza got a new Tata.
Whoa.
Delay.
Yeah, I'm not doing it justice really. It is technically a sports car. It's called the Tamo Racemo, and it's technically India's first racing sports car. The race car's probably going a bit too far. That's available to play now, in fact.
It looks like it's sort of got gull-wing doors as well. They're not really gull-wing doors, though. I don't know what you call them. What sort of style doors are they?
I know what you mean. I think they're sort of like gull-wing doors. Yeah,
like
I mean,
non-gull-wing doors.
It's a very unusual car in a way. It kind of merges. What's the BMW? Which one is it? The i3, is it? BMW. Yeah. It kind of merges ideas of that with something out of some futuristic film or something. It's like something out of Demolition Man or something. It's a mix of the two. But yeah, I mean, it's an unusual looking concept type car.
Yeah.
I
know what you mean. It does look quite futuristic, doesn't it?
Yeah, very futuristic, but also it's got weird sort of race car elements in it. So you've got on one side you have like a media center in your dashboard, like that you can play your music on and everything. But then it doesn't have door handle. It's got a pulley like a race car. So it's like. Okay.
You know what I don't like? There's something I don't like. There's the shot of it with the doors open. I don't like the wheels in that shot. There's something about the wheels that just look a bit flat, and I can't put my finger on it. The way the rear of the car looks with the wheels just isn't quite right. I don't know. Something the profiling doesn't work well. It's like they cut that section off from another car, and it doesn't all go together, if you like.
Yeah, I do suspect that unless Project Cars have got some sort of exclusivity deal, then I suspect we'll still see the McLaren in Forza Motorsport 7, if not Forza Horizon 3.
Absolutely, yeah, you'll see it revealed in those other games. I don't think there'll be there is no point to car companies doing exclusivity deals. I mean, we saw what happened with Porsche, wasted with Need for Speed for years and years and years, and it's not helped anyone. Having said that, Pikes Peak did that silly deal recently with Gran Turismo, which means that we'll only play that once in the next decade. So, that's that. People will forget about Pikes Peak when it's not in a game anymore. So they may not now, but they will. You'll see. It's a bit of a shame.
So if we look at the Fittalpaldi EF7 in Vision GT, I can't be amazed that they're still going with the Vision GT personally. Is there still enough interest in it now, really?
Well, no, there isn't around gamers, but this is nothing to do with gamers. This is purely to do with, again, the branding exercise we were talking about earlier. I mean, and I was mentioning this earlier, I look at it and I feel that Emerson, they sat Emerson down in the room and they said, Emerson, tell us your top 5 supercars that you like. And he went, I like this one, this one, this one, this one, this one. And then they just said, right, we'll design something based on all your favorite cars. And you come up with this, which is a car that's sort of nondescript, that sort of looks like other cars. But largely, it doesn't have anything for me that stands out and that's iconic in any way. It's quite a generic sports car. It's many things. I mentioned the Ford GT, but it also reminds me of a Saleen and other types of cars. There's a whole selection of sort of cars that's.
It's almost like a typical video game car, where developers make it unlicensed.
Mm.
They design it so not to upset the car companies. It looks like one of those.
Yeah, it does. It's like something out of Ridge Racer. Somebody actually mentioned that on a video, and it does look like something out of Ridge Racer.
Yeah, it looks like a very video gamey car.
Mm.
Really.
What was those funky cars that was in Gran Turismo? Was it Venturi or was it Vector? They had some really wacky designs. It kind of reminds me of that. Really
I just
strange.
remember the panels cars in Gran Turismo looking really weird.
Yeah, GTR1, wasn't it? And Esperanto's. Yeah, it's an interesting mix of elements, I guess. I find this car more visually interesting than the McLaren myself.
It's got a bit more going on, but the McLaren, I don't know. It appeals to me because it's more real, and also because it's in Project Cars. Because I actually know I'm going to play that game. So it's
Yeah.
McLaren, yeah. No, the McLaren appeals to me far more as a car. I really like the look of the various different McLarens, and performance is incredible. And like you say, the fact it's based on a real car, real experience in this way. Yes, they are making a number of the F7s as well, but it's not. This has a license plate on it, so it's fit for the road. I don't know if the F7 is fit for the road. I'm assuming not, but I don't know for sure there. They're only producing 50, aren't they? But either way, I much prefer the McLaren. I like what McLaren are doing.
I think it looks a bit, what's the word? Kind of busy almost, because it's so aerodynamic. They've had to really, excuse me. Yeah, you can really see that on the bodywork. I kind of prefer the cleaner look of the 650S personally, but either way, you can't really argue with the performance.
Well, the reason why is when they made the 12C, they went for a very pure, clean design, and people said, "Oh, it's very clinical. It doesn't have the passion of Ferrari. You know, it doesn't show enough lines on it. It doesn't have enough detail on it." So then they came out with stuff like the P1, and they said, "Right, okay, here's all the lines, and here's all the aero visually and stuff like that." And so that's what they're saying, is that they want a car to be a statement, a visual statement. Have a visual passion about it that matches Ferrari in some way. And unfortunately, McLaren have always been about functionality first. In terms of their classic designs. It's a Ron Dennis appeal. He likes something to be clean and almost soulless looking, frankly, as long as it performs well. Obviously he's gone now, but it's all going to change there. So yeah, we end up with something like this, but we'll see how it progresses in terms of their designs in the future. I mean, perhaps we'll see more P1 type crazy things coming out from them.
Yeah, they're not stopping. Since the P1, you sort of think of a car like that, and the trio of cars that were sort of at the top of the supercar game, and McLaren just keep coming out with cars that are almost as quick as a P1. And it's like, whoa, okay. Whereas things like the LaFerrari is going to be held as like it's going to be in the line next to like the F40 and the F50 and so on, and it's going to be like this unicorn car to most people. Whereas McLaren's just going to keep soldiering on. It's amazing.
It is amazing, and it's when you see the performance of the McLaren-made engines, the power units that they're making, the technical wonderful stability of their hybrid engine technology, and then when it comes to F1, they're using Honda, who at the moment are just a mess. And you say, McLaren, why don't you just make your own Formula One engines like Ferrari? It's so frustrating. That's another subject. Sorry, I'm changing the subject there. But engine-wise, I just wish they would. Very impressive.
Yeah,
I look forward to driving that in P cars too, for sure.
Definitely. So I think we should move on actually to Dirt 4. There's quite a bit of news to catch up on that actually. We've got a new video recently about the Your Stage kind of track generator. It's not quite as in-depth as I think people were perhaps hoping for, because I don't think you actually create your own tracks as such. You kind of change all the options and it generates a track for you. Do we think that's going to be enough to entice people? Because let's face it, Dirt Rally was lacking in content.
Well, I mean, they keep pushing this Your Stage, so I mean, I don't know if it's better than what we believe it to be. I mean, we have seen it in action in some gameplay videos from quite a while back, and honestly, I looked at it and I thought, well, this is just like an add-on feature. This is not like a main feature to me. Looking at the sliders,
changer.
Yeah, which is worrying in a way because they're building it up to this big, massive thing, and if it's not as exciting as they make out, if it's what we believe it to be, which is just like an add-on, then that doesn't bode well, does it, for the game? I'm not convinced.
It's ironic though, because if you go back to V-Rally 2 on the PlayStation 1, that had a track designer, albeit a very basic, rudimentary one, but still, that came out about 20 years ago. It's a bit of a shame Dirt 4 couldn't have followed suit.
See, Dirt 4 is trying to appeal to the sim racer and the newcomer alike. So, when you think about it, you have to expect the tracks themselves, that the base tracks in the game, are going to be pretty wide. So, in order to satisfy the sim guys, I guess they were using the Your Stage track generator to narrow these tracks, because if you're going to get newcomers into the game, you have to have wide tracks. You can't have a simple handling model on very narrow tracks, because people are not going to get on with that. So you're going to have wider tracks compared to, say, Dirt Rally. So perhaps then the Your Stage comes in for more serious races, and perhaps that's where people will be spending more time with for the seasoned veterans such as us.
Yeah. I think it will at least add some replay value, because, like I said before, Dirt Rally was seriously lacking in just stage content. So, in that sense, it is a good addition. But
people are concerned with the lack of locations. I think that it's all well and good when you've got a track editor, but that people want different places to race. Not just extra stages in the same area.
Dirt Rally.
Yeah, and I think I just wonder if people. It's a stopgap in a way that people will get bored of it, I guess. I don't know. We'll wait and see. I mean, I'm actually quite looking forward to it. I really enjoyed the previous, Dirt Rally 2 and 3. I enjoyed a lot for various different reasons. Dirt 2 and 3 I enjoyed for various different reasons. I wasn't a fan of the first one. But I do look forward to seeing how it turns out, So until I play it and see how much fun it is, to see if the tracks there themselves that they've already got lots of longevity, then I'll say, yeah, do you know what? I love this. I could play it forever and constantly want to improve my time. But we'll just have to wait and see.
Yeah. Of course, we've also had the announcements of the various special editions. As with most new releases, if you buy it from certain retailers, you get extra content exclusive to that retailer. And of course, we got the obligatory steelbook. I don't know if you guys have seen it, but that steelbook is just shocking.
Yeah, they're kind of hit and miss, aren't they? Codemasters with steelbooks recently.
I like my steelbooks, as you can probably tell, but that one.
Yes.
It looks it looks like an Aero orange chocolate bowl. It's just.
When I saw it, I thought, when you've been tangoed. It's very basic. It's just another logo steelbook, which is boring. We don't want that. Look at the Forza Horizon 3 steelbook. That's what we want. We want a bit of style, a bit of art in these.
It lacks. It's just like the standard edition, but it doesn't have anything completely individual about it, does it?
No, it doesn't represent the Dirt product, franchise, does it? It's very boring, very serious. Yeah. But then I guess maybe that is reflective of the way that Dirt is actually going now, because they're getting rid of the dude bro stuff. So it's going to lose its identity in a way. It's going to become more of a sort of an in-between Dirt Rally and Dirt, if you like. They're transitioning from the less serious to the more sort of serious stuff. So perhaps that steelbook is a sign of the sort of transition into a more serious franchise.
The thing about a steelbook, though, is that you want a steelbook to be a collectible item, often with a logo perhaps in a completely different colour, designed in a different way. You want it to be completely different to every other product on the market, something special and unusual. When they just do a cover like that, it just isn't very special. It's just a bit dull. And it's like they knocked it together in like a day and thought, you know what, we'll just kick that out the door.
Some collectors actually moan when the logo's on it at all, because it's all about the artwork.
Yeah.
Whereas this one's just literally a garish, bright orange steelbook with a logo stamped on it.
Yeah.
But saying that, do you remember the Dirt Rally steelbook?
Oh, no, I can't. It goes in and out of my head.
That was excellent. I'm going to find it.
Yeah. Why would they make? I mean, like you say, it makes you wonder what goes on when it comes to sort of, I guess, in the marketing or product department when they're coming up with these ideas and what they're thinking of, and I guess what they're thinking of Steelbook fans and what they're after. But yeah, I like something to be completely different and totally unique, and sometimes changing the color and look of it makes a huge difference.
So this is the Dirt Rally Steelbook. Which one do you prefer?
Let's take a look at this then.
Yeah, it's a bit more effort put into that.
Just a bit.
Yeah, it's better. It's better. It's still. They still could have done more to it, I think, to have completely changed the artwork, but it is definitely better.
I'm looking at that, and to me, that could be WRC. And it's special about that. It's quite generic.
It's not the best, I'll grant you that, but it's miles ahead of the Dirt 4 one.
Yeah.
And it is at least different artwork to the main game. I mean, okay, it's the same car and the same color schemes, but regardless. But yeah, that is almost as bad as the F1 Steelbooks.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm not impressed. So yeah, elsewhere in Dirt 4, we've had the reveal of all the Land Rush vehicles. It's good to see them back, actually. I quite enjoyed that discipline in the original Dirt games. You know, it was a welcome contrast to the kind of lonely time trials of the rally circuits. You guys looking forward to that?
Yes, absolutely. Love all these extra modes and stuff. Yeah, I mean, I can't remember what the mode I did the most was called now though. Trailblazer. That was it. Yeah. That was the mode I probably played the most. I just loved having these stupidly powerful cars, just hammering it along. So there's a few videos of me on the channel doing a Trailblazer. Unfortunately, the audio was a bit loud on those videos, but yeah, it was good fun.
It gives me fond memories of Smuggler's Run, seeing cars like that.
Oh wow!
So it looks like fun.
Going back.
Yeah.
Imagine if they'd made a new one of those.
Oh, I'd jump on that straight away. Smuggler's Run. It's brilliant. I remember in the first one being able to go up the top of the mountain. There was the backpackers at the top of the mountain. You could just knock them off the mountain and see how far you could make them fly. That was good fun. Hours of fun.
Nice. So I guess the other topic we can't really ignore, as it's big right now in the games industry, the Nintendo Switch came out last week, so we should probably talk about that for a little bit.
Sure.
It seems to have been fairly successful so far, sales-wise. Certainly it's done better than the Wii U at any rate, but it's not really doing it for me so far. I think they've released it too early. It's too expensive. There's nothing in the launch lineup that grabs me at all, because I don't like Zelda. And most of the big titles aren't coming out for another month or so, so at least from my point of view, there's no incentive to buy it whatsoever right now.
No, it's been a bit of a soft launch, hasn't it? They've called it. Well, I've got my issues with it. I mean, for me personally, I think it's overpriced. $280 for the system. Then you've got the Pro controller and a game, an SD card, screen protector. They're saying now that the actual dock for it can scratch people's screens, because there's a lot of them that have been made that are slightly defective in the shape. And so they didn't put anything to protect the screen in there, Nintendo. So people are scratching their screens as soon as they put them in the protector, into the slot, sorry. So you need a screen protector, so that's £450 to get your handheld. And then Digital Foundry tested it on a multi-format game this week. And it was some Japanese RPG action game. And the game ran at roughly 20 frames per second as soon as there was any action on screen. Whereas the PS4 version ran at, it ran at either 900p in the dock or 720p on the handheld at 20 frames per second when there was any in-game action. The PS4 was 1080p at 60 frames locked. So in terms of, and also had more graphical detail, massively more. So in terms of the power of the system, you're basically looking at a handheld Wii U for the most part. It doesn't necessarily.
It's what the Wii U should have been, I think.
Really, yeah, I think it is. I think it's more what the Wii U should have been, and so that's why you've had these Wii U game conversions, because they're swift to convert, and with a bit more performance, they can make them look better, such as fast racing, RMX. But no, I mean, if you want to milk cows and play Zelda, it's fantastic, But for me, you know, I've long mentioned this JXD system that I got a few years ago, and the funny thing is, I love this system, this JXD. And when I saw the new Switch, I thought, oh, it looks just like the JXD. Frankly, it even looks like it. And I see people downloading, you know, Neo Geo games and stuff like old 2D games and saying how they love them on their Switch. And you think, yeah, but for a quarter of the price, you could get yourself a JXD and still run those games. It also doesn't have a web browser on it yet either, so you can't browse the web on it.
Or online multiplayer.
Or online multiplayer. And also, there's no way to transfer your game save to another console. So if your console breaks or you want to transfer it in some way, you can't. So, you know, there's a list of things. I haven't been through all the things that people are not happy about, but it's a considerable list. And I think the problem is Nintendo has an avid following, very avid following of gamers that see no wrong in anything Nintendo does. And unfortunately, you know, I'm just a gamer. You know, I loved what Nintendo did in the past. I felt that when they went to the Wii U, they left people like me behind. I wasn't interested in the Wii U. It was a gimmick, and people bought into it, and it sold well. Good for Nintendo, but it wasn't good for gaming. And I think right now they know that they can release a Zelda, a Mario, a Pokemon, and the unit will sell millions. So that's basically what they're sort of following that tack, if you like. And it's, however poor the handheld is in many respects, it's going to do well. But we'll have to wait and see how it does. I mean, it might be selling well in the short term, but they've got, you know, they're holding a lot back for E3. There's no doubt about it. I think Nintendo are going to throw a lot at E3.
Yeah, I think they're going to ramp up the marketing efforts like towards Christmas, aren't they? Because like I said, it's a soft launch at the moment, but that launch lineup, it's like 4 or 5 different games. Can you imagine if Sony or Microsoft did that?
I think the system's overpriced. Is my personal feeling for it at the moment. I think a 199 is where it needs to be for a handheld
that's what people
device.
thought it would be, to be honest, when it was first announced.
Yeah, it's $299.
You can get a Wii. You can get a Switch at the moment for 19. What was it? What did I see it for? 195.80 or something like that. That's the cheapest I've seen it so far. And that is new.
Well, it's 280 on Amazon. I've not seen it below 280 anyway. So if you find it, I've not seen it. So that must have been a trade-in deal, because the retailers are paying more than that for the unit. So
really,
I'm sure I've seen it.
Have a habit of retaining the value years after launch. I mean, the Wii U right now still goes for about 200 somehow.
Yeah, it's got a bit of a cult following though now, because it didn't do that well, and games kind of get. I mean, it's like I've looked at a lot of retro games recently, and I kind of wish I'd bought more years ago in a way now, because there's a lot of stuff that people are buying just for the sake of ownership now, you know, and it's all changed with owning games now. You know, people don't. But I bought my games to play them. So when, you know, like I saw the other day, Panzer Dragoon on the Saturn came out, and I played it on the Saturn when it was released in Japan. But then when it came out, Panzer Dragoon 2 came out in 95, whatever it was, 96. Sorry, I'm not interested in Panzer Dragoon 1 anymore. But if I decided to keep Panzer Dragoon 1, it would have been worth, you know, more money now, you know. And you look at it now, and everything's about ownership now, and building a collection, even if you never play it. Whereas to me, I'm not that type of person. I get rid of rubbish games. I don't care what they're worth, and I just look at it now and think, oh, maybe I should have kept a few of them. But it will go up in value just because it's rare and because it's Nintendo, and there's always new Nintendo fans.
Yes, something that you've got exactly right with the Switch as well is that at the moment they're riding the wave of Nintendo fandom, whereas I think I feel personally that Switch is going to fall quite a lot, because I don't know if it's a handheld or a console, a proper console. It's just not getting that quite right. It feels like it's somewhere in between. I mean, the examples of that you can see in the ergonomics of it, especially where when it's in handheld mode, you've got the right hand side of the console has got the Joy-Con on the right hand side with the stick sort of offset, which for a handheld doesn't make sense, but for a normal game console that does make sense, because you've got things like the Xbox where you've got the offset joysticks, which works quite well. But when you've actually got it in your hands, that doesn't work well because you can't hold the right hand side of the console properly in order to play with it properly. And there's all sorts of trade-offs where it's trying to do all these gimmicky things with the Joy-Cons, which just mean that ergonomically it doesn't work in a lot of situations, which I think is really going to hurt it in the long run.
Yeah, you were just saying Nintendo squarely positioned it as a game console, and that's why I compared it to the PS4, because you say, right, okay, you can buy a PS4 for, what is a PS4 now, $199? Is it PS4?
Something like that, yeah.
Something like, either way, it's cheaper to get set up and running now, and it performs way better. So it's not a very good home console. It's not, you know, people
more
talk
than
about
5 games available, I should point out.
Yeah, it's not a very powerful home console, and as a handheld, it's pretty big as well. I mean, it's a bulky piece of kit compared to people's old DSs, for example. It's not something you can just slip in your pocket easily. So it's a fad at the moment. Everybody's having a photograph with one and putting it on Instagram and saying, "Look at me, I'm enjoying my Nintendo." But let's see where it is. They were doing the same thing with the Wii a few years ago, saying it was the best thing ever. And to me, I just saw the Wii as, I said, it's a controller. That's all the Wii is. The console is irrelevant. It's just a controller, you know. And it was just a marketing thing. But then it didn't sell many games, you see. People played their Wii bowling and stuff like that, and then they got bored of it and stuck it under the bed and never bought another game for it, whereas the other consoles were constantly selling new games. So yeah, big pressure on Nintendo to bring out some games that are not just gimmicks for it. They need to figure out a way of giving it some longevity. But at the moment, I actually do think it could be the handheld for racing gamers if all the racing games come out, because it is the most powerful handheld when it's in handheld mode. And you know, if you see some of the top games coming out, I don't know if Dirt 4's going to come out on it. They're considering it, I guess. But it'll be interesting to see. Bearing in mind it's less powerful than an Xbox One, considerably less powerful. You know, you're going to lose a lot somewhere when it comes to detail and frame rate.
Well, I think a big downside to it, if it is going to be a handheld for racing gamers, then we've got to consider the fact it doesn't have analog triggers. It's just buttons.
Are they analog face buttons, though? That's the thing, because the PlayStation 2 had analog face buttons, which worked okay. They certainly work better than the nothing in that sense, you know. So you can get by with that, but either way, it's gaming on the go, isn't it? In that sense.
Yeah.
So, you know, as for me, I'm quite happy with what I've got. I like simple games, A to B, so that, like retro games tend to work well for me when I'm just A to B. They're simple experiences, and then when I'm home on my console, that's when I'm happy to play something that's a bit more in depth, a bit more dexterity with a proper pro controller that actually comes with your console. How about that?
Yeah. I will say that if you do have a Nintendo Switch, I would say it's probably well worth checking out Fast RMX if you want some kind of racing gaming experience on the Switch, based on the Fast Racing Neo. My only gripe though with Fast Racing Neo was that it was fiendishly difficult. My God, it was the learning curve on that game. I hope they have addressed that in the sequel. Well, I say sequel, it's more like a definitive edition, isn't it? Really, of Fast Racing Neo.
Yeah,
it's
like a remix.
Yeah, I mean, there's a handful of new tracks, I think, but then it runs at 1080p now. I think they've updated the visuals a bit, but it's a good alternative actually to F-Zero. Although it kind of borrows more from Wipeout in terms of the craft designs and the handling. But considering it only costs, how much was it, like $14.99, something like that, I think.
Really? Oh,
it's quite
bargain.
cheap. Yeah, absolutely. And it's very fast. It does what it says in the name.
$16.99. That's what it is. $16.99.
There we go.
Yeah.
Yeah, it lives up to the name. I'll say that much. Right, just to finish, obviously in previous podcasts we've discussed the Grand Tour at length. Of course, last week we had the return of Top Gear. As far as I know, I think only myself and Alan have actually seen it.
Yeah, sorry.
You guys haven't seen it, have you?
Nope.
I'm very poor.
No.
I will watch it straight after this.
All I'll say is then you guys need to watch it because it was a good return to form.
Good.
In some ways, it surpassed the Grand Tour. Actually, I think.
Glad to hear it.
Well, I suppose I'll kick off. I really enjoyed it. It kicked off with the Ferrari FXXK with Chris Harris doing Chris Harris on cars, basically flying around the course, loving himself. You know, really, you could tell how much he enjoyed just driving that thing round. But he
felt honoured to be able to drive that, didn't he?
Really tricky car to drive. I mean, his skills were being pushed to the limit drifting that thing. It's not designed for drifting. And he was drifting it round, and you could see how much work he was putting into the wheel and the camera work, the budget, the visuals were phenomenal. I thought that opening to the show, and the car was the star all the time. It was about the car, and that's what I really liked about it. Then we go to the studio, new studio. Again, they've redone it. They've made it new. They've made it themselves, and you've got Matt LeBlanc there and Rory there, and they're just talking about. They go on this adventure in these three cars, and again, it was about the cars. It was about their cars and the car's identity, and I really enjoyed all of that as well. And the star in the car, it was back to the old Top Gear track. I thought that was fun.
They basically removed every trace of Chris Evans, haven't they?
I've never liked that track from the beginning.
No.
But you know what? I actually felt that without Chris Evans, the show worked so much better. And the person who came through for me was Chris Harris. There were moments of him where he's talking about very nerdy things. There's a bit where he's talking about films, and he's like, I really dislike that scene. And I was thinking of you, Martin, when I was watching it. I really dislike that moment in that scene. Do you remember that in that film? And then suddenly that happens to that car and that car. And it was so funny when he was talking about where films lack continuity in car scenes, but it was sort of really anal detail, basically. And I like that, so that was pretty funny. But ultimately it ended with this rocket taking off. And I thought, wow, there's glorious footage, a really nice footage of this rocket taking off. It was lighting up the sky like the sun was in the sky. For a minute, it was daylight in the middle of the night. Beautiful footage, really nice ending. But what I liked was it was understated from Matt LeBlanc. He just stayed in the background. He wasn't putting himself forward at all. He pushed the other two guys forward. They seemed to get on better as people. And don't forget, the last series of Top Gear took... a lot of people won't know, but it actually took about 3 or 4 years. It was quite wooden when Clarkson and Co first came back, and it took about 3 series before they started to sort of bounce off each other more. And I think these guys can have that. Yes, it's a bit scripted at times, but they're under so much pressure that they can't muck around. I think as they relax and as they find out what works and doesn't work, I think they'll be able to relax more. But for me, Chris Harris is my star. And really, the car was the star. I enjoyed it. Roll on episode 2.
Bear in mind too that this is really the first time that we've seen those three actually working together. Because in Top Gear last year, it was pretty much Chris Evans and Matt LeBlanc. Occasionally did a film together, and then all the others were alone.
Chris Evans shouting constantly, and not only he was shouting, and doing long interviews. They were doing long interviews with the famous people that they had on, and it just went on and on and on and on, and it wasn't very good, was it?
That is something that fell flat for me a bit actually in the episode, was the celebrity interview where they kind of shoehorned him in throughout the episode. They sat in on all the other segments.
He did, and he didn't seem very comfortable, did he? No, it didn't seem like he wanted to be there, and that was something. But again, I don't know if that's a problem. I don't think it's a problem with the show. It's more down to him as a guy. Perhaps it wasn't comfortable.
Maybe, but I think as well, just having the guest sit through the other segments is a bit awkward in general. They don't quite know when their cue to say anything is, do they? Really?
No, it's true. I mean, when you're there live, obviously they'll show a video on the ceiling there, and you'll all watch that, and then everybody will clap, and you'll go back to them. But it's all pre-roll. But I know what you mean. I felt the celeb thing. It was there needs to be sort of moved around a little bit. I enjoyed the actual car stuff, like with Chris Harris in the car with him. I thought it was good. I thought it was funny. Chris Harris, I mean, that was quite a wild ride, I have to say. And even the final lap was quite erratic.
I like the choice of the new car actually for the celebrity laps. I think that was actually a masterstroke, introducing a rear wheel drive car. Like, you saw it skidding about in the wet. I think that's really kind of livened up the star in a, well, they don't call it that anymore. Star in a reasonably fast car now.
What was quite funny was Chris Harris saying, "And you think you saved the car there, but you didn't use the electronics, and there we are losing it. You're giving it some opposite lot, but that's the electronics." You know, just stepping in there. I thought that was quite funny. You know, just don't think of Chris Harris.
Top Gear is becoming a more nerdy show in a way than before.
Yeah, I like that. I like that.
I enjoyed the challenge as well. I did think in a way it was trying perhaps a bit too hard to replicate the old kind of formula, but unlike some of the challenges in the Grand Tour, it had a point to it. It had an aim. I felt some of the others in the Grand Tour were so aimless. Just drive to the destination just because.
I think the challenge was fun enough. I mean, it was take it with a pinch of salt. You know, I still think he cheated a bit with a taxi cab, but you know,
I enjoyed it. I thought, like I said, I had more point to it than the Grand Tour.
Yeah, Chris Harris out there trying to speak Russian to people or whatever. It was quite unusual, but no, good. First show. I mean, as with all these things, you know, they're under a lot of pressure. It's not perfect, but I enjoyed it.
In the studio, I think some of the banter didn't quite deliver in some ways in the studio, but I think, like you said, it's because they're under so much pressure. They seem a lot more natural in the film.
I think if they have a good series, they get that under there. I mean, what do I think? I suppose I like Chris Harris for me above all else. I think Matt LeBlanc does his bit. I think Rory can be a bit mouthy in his own way at times, but you know, he is what he is. And I think as far as working together is concerned, you know, I think that Rory and Chris Harris didn't always. People always talked about how good Extra Gear was before, but they didn't. I often found that one talked and the other one talked. They didn't interact very well with each other. And I still think that still needs to be improved. We'll wait and see. You know, I'm not saying it's going to be a classic. I don't know if these three guys are going to work long term. You know, but I'd say that it's just for getting rid of Chris Evans. It's made it a better show.
Yeah, I think it's back on the right track. Yeah, looking forward to the series as it progresses. Anyway, I think it's time to do our Q&A for this week. So, kicking off on Facebook, Adam Lee says, we've got two questions actually. You can't do that.
Cheeky.
Okay, he's saying, what's your favourite or best rally/off-road game, and what is your worst rally/off-road game?
Oh, goodness.
Can I say Motorstorm? It's an off-road racing game.
Yeah.
That's definitely one of my favourites.
I suppose I've gone through phases, really. I suppose I played a lot of Colin McRae 1 in terms of rally. I played a lot of Colin McRae 2005 because it ran at 60 frames per second and was awesome. So they were probably... I played a lot of Sega Rally, probably more Sega Rally than anything, actually, come to think of it. Man, I played those four courses a lot in Sega Rally. You know, so it's an era thing, isn't it? It's a genre thing. I mean, right now, I think, trying to think what I've been playing of anything off-road in recent times, but it would mainly be the dirt games, I guess.
Not had a
you were saying Motorstorm
recently.
Yeah, no, there isn't, is there, really? I mean, like you said, there's nothing like Motorstorm. I mean, we've got gravel coming now, haven't we? So...
It's still funny a week on.
It is, isn't it? Gravel. You know, I mean, I got to laugh. That's coming. So yeah, we'll be playing gravel soon. And
sounds wrong. We'll be playing gravel.
Did we mention Baja HD as well? Don't forget that as well. So
yes, that is good. Yeah, we forgot to mention that. Actually, yeah, that's coming out.
That. Yeah, that's coming. So we've got gravel and Baja. We've got Dirt 4 and whatever else we've got. So,
what about worst rally or off-road game? The only one that springs to mind to me is probably Tommy Mäkinen.
Yeah, Tommy Mäkinen rally, as I used to call it.
Right.
Tommy Mäkinen. It was awful. It was just a terrible rally game. There were shoddy ones in that era, but trying to think about modern times, I can't think of, you know, anything. I wasn't keen on fuel at all. I found fuel to be really dull. Dull. Besides that, I never played like Paris Dakar Rally or anything on the PS2 or anything like that. And there were a few, or maybe I did play it and I've just forgotten it. I mean, probably did, but I can't remember now. And off-road wise, there's nothing that's really bad ones. Oh, goodness me. See, what happens to the bad games is I blank them from my memory. I'm like, do you know, this is rubbish. And I just forget about it. And when you play as many racing games as I have for 30 years, you kind of forget.
So that Flat Out 3, that was technically an off-road racing game.
Yeah.
Flat Out 3.
For me, my favourite rally games are probably Colin McRae Rally 1 and V Rally. And the worst is probably WRC 2 by Milestone because they reused the same stages. They had a different sort of filter to make them look visually, a little different, but ultimately it was the same stages reused again. And there wasn't a great deal of it didn't progress the series very much. Number 3 came in, of course that really did, but for me 2 was more or less the same as 1. Okay, they did introduce a number of elements with the career mode. You can choose your mechanic and all these bits and pieces, which in theory was a good idea, but it wasn't very user friendly, so it all was a bit of a mess really. So for me, WRC 2 is a bit of a mess and perhaps my worst rally game, which it could have been good, but it just wasn't, unfortunately. So for me, that's my worst.
It was bad. I mean, I've got a video on the channel of me playing it, and I just, apart from Australia, I just thought, I just don't. I'm not enjoying it enough, really, and I thought it was dated and shoddy, and very disappointing at the time. We were disappointed with, to an extent. We let the first one go, the second one. No, it was just no good. I played it once and I didn't play it again. Especially when you had Dirt 2 up against it and Dirt 3 coming. It was they were in a different league.
Yeah. So, what about you, Ed?
I've been this whole time. I've been trying to think of a bad rally game that
it's difficult.
But maybe I just avoided the bad ones completely because all I can think of is fond memories of Wild Racing on the PS2. That was my first ever racing game. That was off-road. That was very fun. Like I've mentioned before on the podcast, is Smuggler's Run. That was excellent. Gran Turismo 3, getting into the off-roading on there. That was the first time I was doing rally racing with a wheel. What else was there? The original WRC game on the PS2. That was excellent. Really enjoyed that. But bad ones? I think I've managed to just avoid the bad ones, really. I only have good memories.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm just like Alan. I only store the good ones in my brain.
It is. There's no room in there to store bad games, I think. And I've probably played stuff that's really trashy, and then I just think, oh, I can't even keep this in there anymore.
Just can't even anymore.
No.
Next question.
And you know what? There are a few out there. I've just completely forgotten. But
I can't think of any apart from Tommy Mackinnon and Flat Out 3.
Tommy Mackinnon was just so bad, though. Oh goodness, it's probably the worst one. There was another one actually on the N6. There was a couple of bad ones on. Well, there was another one on the N64 at the time as well, but I've completely forgotten what it's called.
Anyway, next question. Yeah. Ian McNally says, have you guys tried out any of the workshop content in Wreckfest yet? If not, do you plan to? And also, if you had to choose for your own driving games, would you have real-life licensed cars with limited damage or made-up cars with full damage and explosions? I haven't tried the workshop content. I've not played Wreckfest in quite a long time.
No, I haven't either. I mean, I have to admit, I've not been on Wreckfest for a while. It is probably a time when I should look at it again. The main problem I had with it was it just wasn't working properly on my triple screens in terms of, at that time, I wasn't able to move my seat or anything. When it worked fine when it first came out, and then they altered it, and it was just awful. So I should go back and have a look at that. What was the other question? Part of it?
If you choose your own driving games, would you have real-life licensed cars with limited damage or made-up cars with full damage?
For me personally, I'd go with made-up cars. I think that you can make made-up cars look so cool now. I mean, if you think of Vision GT is just made-up cars, isn't it? So you can make them look reasonably real, a bit like the cars that you know what they are, but not quite, like Sega in Outrun. And I think as a game designer, if I then had freedom to do the game I wanted to do without any restriction, I want cars smashing and blowing up and things happening and being a wild ride, great. If you told me that I couldn't design my game a certain way because Ferrari don't like to see a scratch on their car, then for me that's not the game. That interferes with game development, and it's a shame when branding exercises interfere with game development.
Yeah.
But, I would always go. I mean, and for me, I love the Ridge Racer games, and they made up all their own cars. So, and you can find car companies that will agree to damage. It's all of them don't. But if you asked, a whole bunch of car companies, some will agree to damage. It just means that you have a mix of real and not real.
Yeah, I'm the same. I go for made-up cars just to get more damage. I mean, I miss games like Burnout, where you could really wreck the car beyond recognition. But I've said it before. I don't think
opposite.
Modern racing games have sophisticated enough damage modeling at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, if we're talking driving games, then I'd much rather prefer have real life licensed cars. You want to feel what it's like to drive these cars, get behind the wheel. Games like a Test Drive Unlimited. I love going around the showrooms, seeing all the real cars, sitting in them, pressing all the various buttons and stuff like that. But if it's more of a light-hearted affair, like a Flat Out or Wreckfest, then of course you would go for more extreme damage at the cost of the licensed cars. So for me, it all depends on the genre, basically. So it's a difficult one to answer. Depends on the genre.
Yeah.
Well, I'd say I'd side with Kevin. We probably have a very similar attitude towards it, really. But I definitely prefer having real cars, licensed cars for racing games. But I'm totally not against, for example, like Project Cars did with having their own made-up Formula cars, because obviously they couldn't have F1 cars, proper F1 cars. So yeah, I'd say where you can, make it up.
Yeah, I mean, I think the point at the end of the day is it's all down to game design. If you're going to do something about, say, drifting, there are certain cars that drifters like to drift. Then you need to have those real-world cars in your game. And you need to find an agreement with the companies. But like you're saying, if you're going to do like Project Cars went for the perfect balance. They brought these extra cars in there they didn't have a license for. That's fine. Make a car up, generic car, works fine. Nobody cares when it's all up and running. Especially if you've got the option of a paint your car system in there, which unfortunately Project Cars doesn't have for various, reasons of people keep painting the cars like other real cars, and that causes other issues. But that's another thing entirely.
Yi Long has a few questions. He's asking, what are your hopes and expectations for Forza 7 on Scorpio? Kind of got into that, I think, in other Q&As, but yeah, it has the potential to be a system seller. We look forward to seeing what's
good graphics. Yeah, new handling, good graphics, and maybe weather, time of day. That would be nice as well.
Yeah. He's also asking, should Dirt 4 include dirt bikes, perhaps as a DLC expansion like Drive Club?
That'd be nice, wouldn't it?
It would actually, yeah. A bit like MotorStorm then, combining cars and bikes.
Yeah.
Not enough games do that anymore.
Certainly do. I mean, you've got the tracks there. Why not? Have the option of bikes in there. I mean, bikes are coming back. If they could, if the Evo guys were able to implement them in the same way as Drive Club bikes, it would be great fun. You want arcade bike handling though, not sim bikes.
Yes,
arcade bikes. Then
it's
I'd be interested.
fun and light-hearted, isn't it?
Yeah, we don't want to fall off our bike every 5 seconds.
No.
Exactly. No. And he's also asking, God, he's really asking a lot of us. With Micro Machines out this summer, are you happy about it having weapons and power-ups in top-down races? or do you prefer them pure and based on skill?
It's an interesting one, isn't it? Because if you remember Tabletop Racing World Tour, they had modes where they took out all the weapons. So you had a little bit of a mix there, which I think a mix is good. You know, I think with a game like Micro Machines, you know, it's all about the weapons, really, isn't it? So perhaps you could have certain modes that did away with the weapons, but have a heavy sort of weapon focus. But you know, just provide a few events without weapons, just to sort of spice it up a bit.
Yeah, I do find it annoying when the power-ups are unbalanced, like in Mario Kart, for example, where you just get taken out just before the end of the race by a blue shell. I think it depends how it's implemented.
Yeah.
But on the whole, I'd say I probably prefer them without.
Okay.
I actually preferred Micro Machines as a classic without at that time. I think that it's nice to have with and without modes. You know, I always like to give the player the choice as if they want to have weapons or not have weapons in a race, you can turn them off.
I mean, for me, you know, a game like Micro Machines has, you know, so much personality with those weapons. You know, that we like the big giant hammer, you know, and a claw as well that comes out. You know, we love all that stuff. And without that, I just feel it won't have as much personality to it. You know, and it seems like with Micro Machines World Series, they're going to really push the weapons system, because it seems like they've only got maybe a dozen cars, but each has apparently its own unique weapons. So it is, I'll be surprised if there is a mode in there without weapons, actually, you know, considering the sort of weapon focus that they seem to be having with that game. So it'd be interesting to see how it plays out. But for me personally, I feel that you know, you take away the weapons and you take away a lot of that sort of personality and fun with these games.
Exactly.
I think Micro Machines for me with just standard without weapons was my favorite way of playing it. So, but like we've said already, give us the options. It's much better.
Yeah.
And what was his other question about Forza 7? What features we want to see?
Just general expectations.
Well, I think first expectation is they've got to sort out the handling and the force feedback. If they sort out the force feedback, then cool. I don't really mind what else is going on. That's the main thing that they've got to sort out.
We need dynamic puddles as well.
Yeah.
Dynamic puddles. And don't put puddles in stupid places. It's really annoying.
Yes.
Well, it's not about putting puddles, is it? I mean, that's the whole thing I felt was wrong with it. It was canned weather. And I just, you know, yes, it's, no, they went for extreme. What I said at the time was, if there was this much standing water, they wouldn't be racing on this track anyway. It would be too dangerous, so to stop the racing. So I mean, it's nice if you want to have a fun, extreme track day, and you can have stupidly big puddles. But in reality, it's, you know, it was just something that I thought was, you know, I think dynamic weather is what I wanted to see in it, and was disappointed not to, and that sold the game to people, just having that canned weather in there. And I think for me, the challenge of driving is when it starts to rain and suddenly the grip is changing in a corner, and the transition is the most exciting part of racing, is the transition. Not whether it's, because the thing with the wet weather was, when you raced in the wet weather, you had a static braking point. So you know, right, I've got to brake here and accelerate here. Nothing changed. So consequently, when you knew where all the puddles were and where all the braking points were, it was just like racing in the dry, but as an assault course. And that's what's wrong with that, with their simulation of rain. You know, it just didn't work.
On to Twitter, Jacko2712 says, any thoughts on the upcoming Dirt 4, and will we be covering Forza Horizon 3 car packs? We've kind of talked about Dirt 4 quite a lot in this podcast, haven't we? Not much more we can add about Dirt 4, I don't think, is there?
No, we haven't played it yet, and I think when we've played Dirt 4, you know, and we've got some footage of it, then we'll talk about it. But until then, until Codemasters want to show it to us, and they've not been keen to show it to us yet, well, then we just don't have much to go on.
Yeah.
As for Forza car packs, I mean, generally speaking, I have to admit, it's been about time, really. We're all sort of so pushed in terms of what we're doing right now that it's difficult keeping up with everything. But we would like to show more of it in the future, that's for sure.
Yeah. Adrian Pullen says, what are your top 3 racing games of all time? Oh, God. Actually, no, we've already got a list of those actually on the website.
It's already on the site. On the website, check out the
Yes.
Contact Us page, and it's all there.
Yes.
Yes, there's your answer. That's the quick answer to that one. Stephen Eagleson says, has Gran Turismo become irrelevant with the amount of comparable, excellent racing games that are on the market? Again, we kind of went into that, didn't we? With
I think it's fair to say that it's going to be important to see how it sells this time, but its relevance to the gaming market is there are people who've come into gaming who've not had a game console before, and who maybe have not even played a Gran Turismo game before, and that amount of people grows all the time. That there's not a Gran Turismo game coming out, so as an automotive brand, it's still very strong. But to gamers, no, it doesn't. It does not have the power that Gran Turismo 5 had in 2010. That was like the biggest thing you've ever seen ever. Now it's like, it's disgruntlement. So
yeah,
it's definitely not got what it had. That's for sure.
No.
Rob Wally asks, is there any word on the size of multiplayer lobbies on consoles increasing from 16 in Project Cars 2?
No.
Have they gone into detail on that yet?
No, there's nothing in that detail yet at all. But we'll wait and see what happens.
No. Finally, James.
I doubt that, considering the weather model that they're implementing. I doubt that would increase. Yeah.
And finally, James Allen's asking about your thoughts on the F1 pre-season testing so far.
Well, I'm going to be doing a detailed preview podcast separately on Formula One, but I will just say I've been watching the F1 times. It's been interesting seeing the consistent pace of the Mercedes. The Ferraris have performed better than expected, but everyone's sandbagging on times. Red Bull haven't shown their hand yet. You won't really see that until we get to Australia, but Renault are definitely closer. McLaren are hugely disappointing. Toro Rosso have been unreliable, and Sauber haven't really done much. Renault are a bit all over the place at the moment, and Force India they've definitely got a package there, but they haven't switched it on yet. But Williams have surprised in the second test. So there's a very quick roundup for you.
There we are.
Watch out for Force India. I think Force India might be a bit of a dark horse.
They all are at the moment. I mean,
feeling.
the one thing I always say to people is you cannot tell anything from winter testing because they're not all running the aero on the car.
True.
And as soon as they run the aero, you don't even know what they're running the engine at. Then a lot of them aren't running the engine at maximum revs because they're testing different race strategies and fuel strategies with the tyres. So they're just using a basic chassis. They're testing how airflow works on the chassis without all the aero parts to see if it matches their simulations. They're trying the different maps on the engine to see what the best map is to control the fuel and everything, stretch it out, use their energy efficiency. And then, like you say, once they've done all that, then they start really working on the aero and building those parts on. So when we get to Australia, you're going to see cars that have so many more new, unique parts on there. And the illegal stuff. That's when it all starts to appear.
Right, that's it then for the Q&A. So I think that's it for this podcast, unless anyone else has anything else to add.
No, I think that's it for now.
Right, there we go then. Thanks as always for listening then. Do keep those questions coming in, and we'll do our best to answer them. That's it now from all of us though. We'll see you again next time. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.